Delighted to be here with you today to formally open this conference, and in doing so extend a huge welcome to Manchester.
I think Manchester has got a terrific role in promoting not only itself but also the wider UK internationally. Manchester benefits not only from a deep talent pool, so Manchester's got great universities, highly experienced workforce, but also some terrific quality of life aspects as well.
We have two very large world-class universities in Manchester with a population well in excess now of 80,000 students, and we have just become the most popular, second most popular universities in the country.
And we're seeing even greater diversity being brought forward. You know, the Royal Bank of Scotland's global investment banking operation is starting to relocate here, which is adding even more significant value.
Now, the question I've been challenged with today is, can the government rebalance the economy? I'm a great believer that the City of Manchester has not only a great industrial past, but a fantastic economic future. There's real pride and enthusiasm and energy here.
When a business is looking to relocate, whether it's from within the UK or coming from overseas, what they first want to know is that there's a pro-business attitude in the city that they're moving to. So I think organisations such as sort of pro-Manchester can actually sort of fulfil that form as a starting point.
There's an awful lot of conferences in the calendar at this time of year, and to get the quality of attendees and speakers for this has been absolutely superb. For a first event, I think it's exceeded everybody's expectation.
I find it really engaging. I think the speakers are speaking with passion, and it's good to get a real breadth of interest and show how interested people are in making Manchester really successful in terms of professional services.
2010 turned out to be a rather better year than most people had expected that it would be. The problem is we now face some pretty stiff headwinds. The first is that the government is finally getting its sleeves rolled up and starting to retrench and get the deficit down. That will make a considerable difference. It really kicks off from April and is going to be quite painful, at least for the first couple of years. But the second thing that's happening is that households on average are now getting poorer. And they're getting poorer because their wages aren't going up as fast as inflation.
I'm going to talk about the backdrop to next week's budget, essentially, the backdrop to the biggest domestic policy challenge that the new government faces, which is to get the deficit down to a sustainable level over the course of this Parliament.
One of the most important relationships all of us have in life is actually with our bank. We can't be without them. We manage our money that way. We manage the savings we have, and we manage all the payments we make and receive.
We are one of the largest international centres, if not the largest international centre for banking around the world.
The squeeze on public spending is being done essentially to try and keep interest rates down, monetary policy looser for longer. So the businesses that are going to win out of this will be those businesses who benefit most from the lower interest rates. Those who will find it hardest will be those who are reliant on that public spending for their activities.
The digital and creative economy was identified as an area of further investment by the NWDA in a strategy paper some years ago, and the principal drivers to that decision were that there was already an existing emergent industry and there was plenty of infrastructure. More importantly, there was the potential for further growth, but what was perceived as lacking, amongst other things, was access to capital.
Property developers are always looking for forms of capital, and it's very difficult at the moment because the banking sector, which has been the traditional source of funding, is stretched right now. So it means that we've got to look to other forms of funding.
In Manchester you've got 5 universities, they're already working closely with the NHS, they have early engagement with clinicians, they're identifying the real clinical problems, getting the academic brains to work on those and coming up with solutions.
I think the region has some very strong SME sectors, and some of them are represented in the North West Fund by specific funds. So you've got digital, creative and media, you've got energy and environment, you've got the biomedical sector. But there are other sectors which are very strong and traditionally have been very strong in the North West, such as engineering businesses, manufacturing, chemicals, financial services, of course, particularly relevant today, and we see some really interesting and innovative businesses in all those areas.
Today has been a demonstration of what Manchester has to offer, an unrivaled opportunity to challenge London. It's a much bigger and better centre for financial professional services than anywhere else in the UK outside of London.
A lot of the messages that are coming out here about the strength of the regional capability of financial services are exactly the kind of messages which we need to get out for the country as a whole.
What an amazing conference this is turning out to be so far. We've just had the morning session. Quality of the speakers is phenomenal.
I think for the business and professional services community in Manchester, we've seen a very strong growth even through the difficult last 2 years. So we've already heard from Sir Howard this morning and Sir Richard Lees saying they see this sector as being one of the key drivers of growth in the greater Manchester economy. And as the economy develops, so too we think we'll attract more and more business from the North West into Greater Manchester, which is good for Manchester and its members.